He basically came up with the whole thing.
You need though a nice little.
Good. All right. But yeah, as I was saying, I just saw that they had this video of these couple of women in West Palm Beach who were basically they're like a town meeting kind of thing where you can complain and tell them how you feel, what's destroying the community, those kind of things.
Was this the one where the women were going off on masks?
Yeah. And like blame, like something went into scripture, started talking about God, and one of them was like, "I'm a doctor," and I don't know. I couldn't even understand them. It made no sense. It was hilarious though.
You know something. Some of these people, even the Lieutenant Governor of Texas, Dan Patrick. I mean, it's just getting to a point where it's like, I want to appreciate that
he ordered them to have masks now, right?
I still don't think it's an order statewide. It's more of a recommendation still. Wait, between him and Rush Limbaugh going off on like the, just let COVID's here, just accept it, just go out and live your lives. It's like I want to accept that you have your point of view, and as an American, you're allowed to have, a point of view that I don't agree with, but I just can't wrap my mind around some of this stuff with COVID.
Which parts can't you like wrap your head around it?
Now we're just getting to the point where it's like, oh, well, it's here, it's highly infectious, we're getting 10,000 cases a day in some states, but just open up the bars and the gyms and everything and let's just see what happens. I mean, how bad could it be?
There's definitely some truth to that there are some places that are kind of like, whatever it is, like just fatigue of it, and they're like, you know what, let's just open the bars and such.
But it's just like, no, you can't do this. I mean, you're going to overwhelm your healthcare system.
I think there's no great answer, lockdown or no lockdown at all or halfway. I think what you just, again, and some people have pointed out, I think you need to let the most vulnerable people in society stay at home, the elderly, right, the most sick, and let the younger people who are the chances of them getting sick very slim.
Well, that's exactly what I think they're running into right now, is that a lot of the infections are people 35 and younger.
Well, getting sick but not dying.
Well, that's also a thing.
So far as
the death rate is definitely not nearly what it was, 3 months ago.
So,
but I mean, it's still taking
kids
up all the beds.
Barely affected at all. Like they had this little outcry, like when they had this little. A couple hundred of them got some other weird Kawasaki syndrome that was like a break of was created by coronavirus.
Well, I've heard that it is mutating now to
the coronavirus disease, possibly. But I think you got to let the kids go back to school. I mean, that's pretty clear.
I gotta disagree with you on that.
Really?
One. Yeah, I mean.
And do what?
I mean, you can. I think you can stagger, school. Where people have been talking about, kids. Some kids go 2 days a week. Some kids go 3 days a week. But
yeah, they're talking about that.
When it's just like, oh, we're just gonna throw the kids back out. I
forgot who was arguing about that, and I think it was Bill Maher. It might have been Bill Maher or somebody, and arguing against that like vehemently, like the numbers just also Tucker Carlson, but okay, you won't take his word as is credible, right? But they were both like, Bill Maher since the beginning has really pushed people, getting out of their homes, and like the lockdown is not the way to go, because think about it. What we do know about coronavirus, staying at home or staying in a place for long periods of time with the same people, in contact with people, is how you're most likely to get it.
Yeah.
And being outside in the sun is much less likely for you to get it. So being at the beaches and stuff is actually a good thing. Even though we mocked people at first in like Florida when they were like letting people do that, they're like, this is.
I think they're finding in some of these situations that some of these people are actually, going, too close in these, social situations.
Look, people are always gonna. They're having a really hard time in what state is it now? Is it Texas? I don't know. Some say
Texas,
they're not wearing the masks.
Florida,
California.
Arizona. Yeah.
They're not wearing the masks now, and the cases are rising. And they're like, well, even whether the mask data is conclusive or not, or whether you believe it or not, when you were wearing the mask, we were doing okay. Once you stopped wearing the masks, because I think it's also a psychological thing. If you know you've got this mask, right on your face, it's obvious. You feel it. You know what I'm saying? And therefore, you're more likely to be cognizant, of what you're doing, of the disease, of not. I just went to my family's house on my cousin's house, July 4th. Okay, no one's wearing masks, of course, and that's good, fine. We're indoors legally. When they wouldn't. I went in to shake hands, kind of thinking like with you and I and him, like, can we still shake hands? Like, that's what I kind of thought. We were kind of normal. The first person I see, my cousin, he literally jumps like 5 feet when I go to shake his hand. He's like, "Whoa, Nelly!
I had
Oh
the
no!"
Same exact situation play out with me. I went to go shake my brother's mother-in-law's hand, and she literally, like, I put my hand down. She went, "No, no, no!" Like, and something. I don't know how long it's going to take for us as a society to really kind of like break out of that habit, but it's just naturally ingrained.
I'm sure once they say, "Hey, you guys can shake hands again," it's okay. I'm sure some will still be trepidatious, but Fauci wants to get rid of handshakes altogether. This guy, but it was just
for the time being, I can understand.
It was such an overreaction, and also. None of them would. My whole family ended up with. They all kind of ended up with being like, "Oh yeah, we're just not going to do that." But he was just so dramatic about that. But then what really irked me a little bit was they have a few little kids, like 4th grade,
and they're all running around playing with each other.
Well, yeah, of course they're all running around playing each other, but they wouldn't let the kid come into contact with me. At all, eat next to me or, breathe or shake my hand or give me a hug goodbye. I'm like,
I mean, once you're socializing with 1 or 2 people at the party, you're socializing with everybody.
That's what I'm saying. Because
you're either
once you're in a closed environment, we should have been outside. It was July 4th. That would have made a lot more sense. But now I'm like, God, I didn't want to say it, but I'm like, guys, we're in a closed environment here. We're all in the same room.
This is not
You're all sitting at the same table, and just because you're not physically touching one another, you think when she touches that serving spoon and then you touch that serving spoon, it was just like,
this is no different than being in a restaurant.
Right.
What they're telling us not to do.
That's what bothers me, and I'm just like, it's just a lack of awareness, but an exaggeration.
It's everywhere. Let's try to find something happy.
There is nothing happy, dude. I've been looking through stories and looking for happy stories because they don't show them anymore because they don't want to. I don't know. What is the happy story did you hear?
I think I got one. Before they had shut down all the proms and stuff for all the high school kids, I had read that there was one kid that his girlfriend broke up with him, so he asked Juju Smith-Schuster from the Steelers to go to his prom with him.
Mm-hmm.
So he bought the matching $10,000 suits and went to prom with them. That made me smile.
Wow.
But that's about all I got right now. I mean,
wow.
that's the age that we're in.
That's true. Actually, can we use the Google again? Can we use it real quick? Can you just type in good news or good things that happened
good recently? News 7/8/20.
I'm just curious to see what it says.
See what's going on.
Oh, people watch this. That show, John Krasinski show that he did. It was just called Good News.
Couldn't get over in this day and age, could it? I mean,
no, it did fantastic.
Did it?
Because people they're anxious. They just want to hear about good news.
Just something that's not like
right. Just see what the top stories are. It's probably it's going to be old fashioned crap. Let me get no.
You know what it is? It's going to be about the Supreme Court. They had a bunch of decisions comes out today. It's going to be all about the Supreme Court.
Yes, there's some Supreme Court. It depends on which side of the aisle you're on.
I mean, believe it or not, that's actually something.
All right, let's just see what that list is right there. What does that say? Levi Strauss reports earnings. Oh, that's yeah.
The man got richer. I mean, that's about it.
Wow, someone got richer. Great. Great good news.
That's all we've got for
How
good
about
news.
Positive news? Can we try different words? Yeah, or positive news stories, something like that. Yeah, good news stories, positive news stories, whatever. I'm just curious.
We're going to have to scour the internet
How
to find
sad is this?
something
We
positive.
can't hear about anything positive. We don't know anything positive in our own lives. We got to scour Google for it.
When literally Google has nothing for you and you're searching for positive news.
And Google controls all of this. They probably put all the positive news stories away at the back because that's not what to get some hits.
They're going for clickbait.
Oh, Black Lives Matter. This is positive news. Oh, sweet Jesus.
It's gotten to a point with me where like I even try to avoid talking about this in my home now.
3 good things. Online support groups start. That's not what I want to hear at all.
Google something about dogs. I mean, that's usually positive news. Let's see if we got something there.
No, go up. Oh, all right. Here, let's
I think I see a sea turtle there. Could that be something positive?
Ooh, the 5-point plan for achieving net zero. No, I want like the grandmother who, some stranger came and, paid for her meal or something. Where are those stories?
Something nice.
Oh, see. Oh, here. They will change lives. The micro houses tackling homelessness in Cambridge. All right, click on that story. Let's see what's going on over there. Now, that's a good news story. That's a outhouse or a micro house?
That's a micro house.
Or a microwave. I don't know what's going on there.
No, man. You seen these tiny homes nowadays?
Oh, this is Cambridge University. Oh, so wait, this is, do we have a Cambridge in America? I know there's a Cambridge in Massachusetts, so I'm guessing there's a Cambridge in England. But anyway, I didn't know they had so affordable. Can you read that? Delayed by coronavirus.
Yeah,
so it's really not good news. It was delayed by.
It's not specifying which country it's
in. It was
in.
delayed by coronavirus. Oh, it's not America. We don't have bridges like that.
That looks like the UK.
All right. So there's 6 new affordable homes backed up with a team of blah, 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 changing people's lives.
That's what we've got. On the 3rd page of Google, there's a university in the UK that built 6 houses for people that are affordable. That's what we've got. That's all Google has for us in terms of positive news.
That's a start. But I try to go for like positive news in a way is like space news. Like if I'm looking at like where are we going next? What time are we leaving this planet and leaving the infidels and the weirdos behind? I just said infidels.
You're going to get in trouble on that one. But, okay, let's quickly veer a little bit in that same direction, though, because I've been falling into the YouTube rabbit hole of watching videos on space and where we're going next and how we're sending these satellites out there. So, you ever fall
wait, what's that? Go down a little bit.
What do we got?
New mathematical formula unveiled to prevent AI from making unethical decisions. Yes, they're not taking over the world. Not just yet, anyway. They'll figure out a way around it.
If people are stupid, they're gonna find a way.
Whoever did that is a genius. They're gonna be like, "Hey guys, we're gonna build this robot. He can walk, talk, and pretty much calculate anything in a split second." He's already smart on this. Maybe we should put in a back door or like an off switch so that he can't take over the world.
A little self-destruct button somewhere.
Good. That's smart. That is good. No, but actually they picked up his show, his good news show.
This is the John Krasinski show?
Yeah, John Krasinski. MIT scientists design autonomous UV robot that can disinfect Boston Food Bank in just 30 minutes. Great. It'll cook your food and clean.
It's slim pickings when it comes to positive news right now. I mean, this is what you got. This is it.
Here, let's see. How a crowded slum of 1 million people contained the coronavirus to only 2,000 cases. Hey, they're doing better than America.
You know something? That's one thing that I see on the TV, and you see that Brazil and India and Peru are now starting to catch up to us, and I'm like, I guarantee you these places probably have many more cases than we do. Just the fact that
of course.
Their testing and reporting standards are probably not.
But this one here, biologists have found a way to regenerate neurons in mice with Parkinson's using CRISPR at gene editing. You ever heard of CRISPR gene editing?
This isn't even positive news anymore. This is just literally something that's not negative.
Scientific news is usually, it's always good.
No,
hey,
we're
the good news, the greatest news would be they found a cure for death. So I'm all for it. But no, you ever read CRISPR? I started reading that book on CRISPR gene editing.
Is it more negative news?
No, CRISPR is about the future. It's about basically figuring out how to, get rid of all the bad genes, like our fat genes or this gene, or like if you want to make a baby, how to pick boy or girl or whatever.
So the robots have figured out how to manipulate us into being a more productive species.
No, it's not the robots. It's us. It's us figuring out how to make us in a more perfect species.
They do have that to some degree nowadays.
Soap bubbles delivered by a tiny drone can pollinate crops if bees aren't available, says study. Nice. That's not creepy at all.
This is not even news anymore. Right. It went from somewhat positive news to just news to
right.
just not even news.
Hawaii sets record for largest haul of plastic removed from the Great.
Well, that is
Pacific
positive,
Garbage
actually.
Patch.
I
That's
will
good.
give you that one. That's positive.
That's good. So we're on the way to solving climate change. The Dad Gang is celebrating black fatherhood and breaking stereotypes. The Dad Gang breaking stereotypes? Yeah. That's not ironic. Sean Penn's such a freaking weirdo.
All right, we can officially give up on the search for some.
Hey, I could look at this forever, but it's all right. You can get rid of it. You can get rid of it. No, but yeah, John Krasinski, or I'm just gonna say Emily Blunt's husband.
Much easier.
Yeah,
There you go.
Is he sold his show to like CBS, and it was because it was doing so well, and then
And what is it? It's just the premise is just reporting positive news.
basically whatever. I haven't actually watched it. I wanted to. Apparently, a lot of people did watch it, and he sold it to CBS for a lot of money. And now, of course, they're all calling him sellouts. Like, why'd you sell it? You're doing it for free and for fun. He did like a virtual prom. That's what it was like, the first big virtual prom.
Okay.
And people loved him for it. Now they hate him.
Because he sold it and made a lot of money.
I
and
hate
now
him
the man's
because
got it.
Quiet Place 2 was supposed to come out in like March or April, and now it's been pushed back to God knows when, along with Mulan.
Well, all these movies, they're either coming out straight to
pissed.
like on demand or it's just getting pushed back indefinitely. I mean,
Did you see Hamilton? I watched Hamilton the other day.
you know, something.
Did you see Hamilton? He definitely watched Hamilton. You so watched it. You just got a little kid. Come on, I know you watched Hamilton.
I watched that that King of Staten Island. Did you see that one?
Sorry, I just say, damn, I look sexy on the screen. This is
Look at my muscles.
but
No,
what? What did you watch?
That one with Pete
Book of
Davidson.
Mormon? What?
The Book of Mormon. No.
How to Be an Atheist?
King of Staten Island. Did you watch that one yet?
I watched some of it.
I mean,
yeah.
it was entertaining, but
Yeah.
it was not like it didn't really have a plot.
I liked it, but as soon as I got bored at one point, I was just like, I had enough. But I would like to go back and rewatch the whole thing.
It was a long movie. It was like 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Hey, Hamilton was like 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Actually, yeah, you got me there.
Hamilton was now it's one of those things. I don't know would it be better live or
I
or
think
not live,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Yeah, live
that's
or
more of like the
on
experience
TV. Well, you get some added benefits.
Bonefits.
Oh man, I told you I was tired. I can't
Hey,
tell.
people don't realize it's not so easy
not
sometimes
the
speaking in
easiest
front
thing.
of
It's
into
not.
a microphone.
I sound like Donald Trump. I got the sniffles, and
I mean, people, you know something? People kill both of them, Biden and Trump, every time they like have a misstatement of the slightest degree. It's like it ain't freaking easy sometimes to speak into a
he's
mic.
had
I mean,
trouble with some words. So is Biden, but yeah, I think Trump. It's more he's just tired and probably has done a little something.
I don't think he really, prepares himself too much for it. He's just like, okay, that's it. All right.
Well, I think
Come
he
on.
reads off a teleprompter. No, I
Yeah.
just mean I don't totally disagree with. You've always heard those conspiracy theories that he's. I don't think it's that he's done coke, but maybe he's on like methamphetamine or something. And when he comes off of it, he's
Yeah.
like, he's kind of
Dulled
tired.
down.
And Biden is so clearly cognitive. That's not even funny.
Something they prepare him very well. He's learned to speak very slowly now and off the
He's
teleprompter.
just slower, yeah. Well, that's why the debates you'll see a different side. But he did happen to win that. He won because that last debate, the third debate in the primary against Sanders, he crushed him.
Yeah.
He had his few gaps, but the rest of what he said was powerful enough and coherent enough that it overpowered. And now, what did they have him? They didn't have him make a freaking speech for almost 3 months in this past. It was 89 days.
He's been giving smaller, like 5-minute long, bits to, smaller unions here and there in Pennsylvania, but he's for the most part been basically at home doing virtual town halls and stuff like that.
But yeah.
Something? It's just I really feel like that's something that the bulk of America, even we're 4 months out from the election, there's not one person in the country that's undecided at this point. Everyone's made their mind up.
See, trust me, there's always a weird group. In 2016, I was totally undecided up until like the last minute.
Yeah?
And people are like, how the hell could you be Like they're two distinct characters. So let me explain. Like you remember that guy that used to be on Bill Maher that he came popular for like 15 seconds? He had that red sweater on. His name was Ken Bone.
Oh, yeah. He had he asked a question during one of like
yeah.
the
He's
debates.
like, could you say one nice thing about the other opponent?
Yeah.
And of course, Hillary couldn't find anything, and she's like,
I think she said something nice about his children. Yeah.
And he's like, and then I forget exactly what Trump said.
Trump said she's a fighter something like that.
Yeah, but that person was also on Maher, and he's like, he says to Maher, he's like, dude, it's literally like 2 weeks before the election. How do you still not know? And he's like, I just don't know. And I've thought about this. I don't know even remember what I said, but basically, like in that particular example, like in Obama, McCain, I was 100% for McCain all day, every day. Didn't even want to know who Obama was. Obama, Mitt Romney, even though I didn't even care who Obama was. Although I know he had done, I had his 4 years of him, and I was done with it. But Hillary Clinton, I always liked Hillary, and I also always liked Bill, and I always thought of Bill as a great president.
He had really good economic policy.
Yes,
so.
And so the two of them are very smart, and I figure with Clinton's help, her being the first lady man or whatever, they'd make kind of a great duo. And then she, it didn't really matter that she picked like this really weird, creepy VP. Now Pence is not. It kind of fits the description of weak
to the ticket.
But Tim Kaine was a little weird.
Yeah,
he was a little like, "Hey, guy, you should have been like Barney in something."
He was not a bad candidate. He was just
not at all.
He didn't add anything to that ticket at all.
Although I appreciate, I think the route she went was, now everything's identity politics. You know how Biden's come out and said, I'm picking a black woman, right?
Yeah.
Setting yourself up for disaster.
He announced that
right. You
before the primaries even started.
Pure identity politics, right? So. Some people wanted Hillary just because she was a woman, obviously going off connections to the Clintons, and a lot of black people liked them, and so on and so forth. I didn't like her because she kept getting pulled further to the left, right? And so, and I wasn't sure she was going to be able to bring herself back to a normal mid-moderate Democratic place. And Trump, of course, you're torn because as a conservative or Republican, or just a non-Democrat at this point, because you see how crazy they are, you say to yourself, the policies or the general feelings of his policies, where he wants, his vision, if you want to call it that, America first, bringing back jobs, limiting illegal immigration, all the things I want.
It's still the area that he's leading Biden in is on the economy. So.
No, right. It's just then you hear all the comments and the tweets and all that noise. And are you able to drown out all that noise? And I was. So even though I was kind of torn between the two of them, what did it for me in the end was just simply the fact that basically, I think if it was just one or the other, or really, I should say, if he had just made like that one comment about Joe Biden, wait, what is this you're pulling up over here? Cancel Hamilton.
we were actually into a good conversation.
No, I know,
there,
but I want, because this was a thought I wanted to bring up right before we start. What we just started talking about. Cancel Hamilton sweeps the internet with calls for the musical to be axed over its debut on Disney Plus over criticism of founding fathers for its role in slavery and trade. So let me just go back to this point real quick then.
Okay. You finish up this one, then we're going to dive into this, because this actually
that's actually I want to leave that up there.
Yeah,
but
that's something we're going to circle back
that's actually what I wanted to talk about before it. But
let's finish this one up.
Yeah, what was I going to say? I was just saying that
you were talking
the reason I wasn't going, probably if he had just made that McCain comment where he was like, "Oh, John McCain got held captive. I like a real war hero who doesn't get captive or whatever," and I was like, "Oh, it's so idiotic." Yeah. But I was still probably going to vote for him. But once I just realized that during the debate when he said, you right? When Hillary said, when he made the comment to Hillary, he kind of started it. He's like, "Where? No one's seen you for the past 3 days. Where have you been? I've been out campaigning. No one's seen you. Where have you been?" She's been like, "Well, I've been held up, in my home or wherever with my adjuncts,
she was sick
administrators."
or something,
No,
right?
no, no. She said she was studying to be president. She was sick, I think, but she said her answer was, "I was studying to be president."
Okay, yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah,
because there was another time that she had collapsed after like the 9/11 memorial.
Yeah,
too,
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
I think there was another time where it was a similar exchange too.
I don't remember Trump's response, but it was nothing. It wasn't like, "Well, I've been studying either." It was something like, "Well, I was in Wisconsin, maybe, at a rally or something." And I just like an aha moment. I'm like I always try to be extremely reasonable in every way as possibly as I can. I don't put a party versus country.
Yeah.
And as much as I would hate Hillary to be president, weighing all the factors, if you go back to 2016 and make that candidate Biden, I would have probably still picked Trump, but I would have believed that Hillary would have been reasonable enough, healthy enough, young enough, and smart enough to draw herself back to a moderate position, or somewhat moderate position. And the reason I just couldn't pull the trigger for Trump, I was just like, God, he really didn't study at all. Like, he really didn't read the Constitution. He doesn't really read any of those things. Because as anyone would, he gave the most maximum amount of minimal effort, if that makes any sense.
That's
you know what I mean?
actually a very good way of putting it.
Yes,
actually. I like
that. And there are people like that. I know people like that.
To piggyback on that, I remember listening to WFAN the morning after the election, and Boomer Esiason, I mean, he was just bringing up the point that over the last 4 days leading up to the election, that he just completely outworked her. I mean, he went to 7 different states in the last day of the election, literally flew from one state to another, doing an hour in each place. I was like, okay, but it turned out to work for him. So
no, that is what worked for him is actually going there.
I mean, but that's basically what you said. He really didn't have to do anything other than showing up in the place made a difference to some people. But
right.
I digress.
So yes, what was that article?
Cancel Hamilton.
Cancel Hamilton. Can you bring it back up? Like I said, I did you watch it?
I did not. Something
and
I wanted to try to.
What is this on? What site is this on? Oh, Daily Mail? Is that? It's UK. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
something, there's people that are just going to hop on all this stuff, but literally it was not even 6 months ago we were celebrating Hamilton. I mean,
well, I don't know. The play, you mean?
We were celebrating it as a tremendous featuring of American history, and
well, that's why I was watching
now
it. I'm watching it,
I understand that in this new climate that we're in, it's a very supercharged issue, but we were discussing it last week that you have to look at things like comedy and performance art. You really have to, and now history too, you have to look at them through a context. I mean, you have to have that ability. There are certain things that are, and topics that are very inappropriate that, something, with the benefit of hindsight, we probably can do a much better job, but things like this, now we're going to cancel Hamilton. I mean, you have to be able to look at things with some context. I mean, come on. This is just, even as a liberal Democrat, this is a pale too far. Cancel Hamilton now. I mean,
a show started by a Hispanic gentleman who saw the connections, the similarities between him and this great man who just happened to be, oh my God, wait for it, white. Oh my God. He was white. And understood that this guy had the same story as so many of, his Lin-Manuel Miranda, the creator of Hamilton, so many of his ancestors, as so many other ancestors have white. I mean, how many stories do you hear constantly? I'm sure your ancestors came here. Was it like one of those, my grandfather had $7 in his pocket or something like that?
Actually, believe it or not.
Oh my God, he was felt wealthy. I knew it. He was filthy rich.
My grandfather's side, yes, it was. They were broke and they came over. My grandmother's side, they were wealthy and getting away from the Holocaust. So they, got visas from a family member, and then my grandmother's family came over. But
yeah. But my family, I'm not exactly how they've been here for a while. They might have been here since like the Mayflower or some shit on one side of my family, but
you never know.
But the other side of my family had no money in his pocket, or one of them, and I think it was something like $7, and the idea was to bring his family over. I think he came here in 1907.
Okay,
it took him until 1921 to get his family over here. Yeah, and one of them lucked out. Another family, like a cousin maybe or something of it's on the Italian side of my family. He lucked out because he was a great marble maker, and they hired him. This is my mother tells me, hired him to go and work as a skilled laborer in Atlanta. So he actually started in Atlanta.
Oh damn!
Yeah, but we went through Ellis Island, and we saw them. They were saw their names or whatever in Ellis Island when they came through there. But could you go back to that article real quick? I just want to.
I mean, cancel Hamilton.
Anything on cancel Hamilton? Because I was actually thinking this as I'm watching it, and so many people like laugh, or like my family like laughed at, like when I tell them these things are gonna happen. Like I'm sitting there watching the movie. And I'm like, holy crap, these are the characters that they're all trying to tear down right now. And especially just, who the Schuyler sisters are, or the Schuyler family?
I've heard of them. I've done a little bit of reading on it.
Alexander Hamilton marries, in real life, well, based on mere life, whether it's a play or not, that he married one of the Schuyler sisters. And I think he was in love with like two of them. He was a little bit of a player. But he was an immigrant. He came from the Caribbeans, right? And he made his way up, and he was obviously a brilliant guy, and just was ambitious and focused, knew what he wanted. So the Schuyler sisters, though, were the daughters of Philip Schuyler, who was an American Revolutionary War hero who signed the Declaration of Independence. And they just pulled down his statue in Albany about 2 weeks ago.
They actually pulled down a statue of Frederick Douglass in Rochester.
Yes, I saw that.
I understand that some statues are not appropriate, like we were just talking about. And, if you can make a case on certain statues, it's appropriate to take it down, you take it down. But Frederick Douglass, I mean, I've heard of Ulysses S. Grant being toppled. I think it was in Chicago. I mean, some people just need to actually educate themselves before they take these things down. It's like...
So it's all about their connections to slavery. So wait, can you go up a little bit? Go back a little bit. I knew they were going to try to cancel him. And that's, like, see, what's so crazy about this whole thing is they're being the racist now. And they don't care how racist they are. They can't appreciate what's happening here. That, a non-white person is playing a white person and playing one of our founding fathers because he appreciates his story, because he sees the same similarities in his story as he does in his lives. And then you hear articles about how, did you see the one about Jenny Slate, who an actress, she was playing the voiceover, so you can't see her. She's playing the voice of a half black, half white girl, and she quit because she's like, "Oh my God, this is wrong."
Actually, I did hear about that.
I'm part of the problem.
The same thing happened on Family Guy, I think. No longer they're gonna have a white voice actor play the voice of Cleveland on the show.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
I mean, it's one of those.
But what does it say there? Alexander Hamilton's connections to slavery. So that's what they care about. See, he was a penniless orphan from the Caribbean who was so brilliant and so good at self-promotion that he rose through the ranks in the Revolutionary War, became George Washington's right-hand man. He married Elizabeth Schuyler, the daughter of a wealthy and influential New York landowner and military officer. Had 8 children. He never owned slaves himself, but in this world, by association, it's the same thing. It's so crazy. It's like that cop in Atlanta who shot that guy, Rashard Brooks. The mother lost her job just because her son was a cop.
Yeah.
I mean, this is insane. I mean, they're taking down like Grant statues. Grant moved and married into a slave family. His family was ardent abolitionists. He happened to have one slave for like 1 year who he worked in the fields alongside with and freed him right before the Civil War, and the guy was forever thankful.
I mean, there's a good argument to be made that Ulysses Grant did just as much, if not more, than Lincoln
But
in terms of getting,
if Frederick
the
Douglass
war finished and actually.
Once it's over, right? He got it done, but then once it's over, he helped, continue it for a while.
I mean,
make
the
sure it
Confederate
didn't
strategy
just die.
at the end of the war was literally to try to hold out for the next election, and basically they were trying to defeat Lincoln at the ballot box. So there's a really good argument to be made that Grant really did a lot more to end the war and basically.
Well, they were actually seeking peace, the Confederates at the end, because they realized if they could get back into the Congress, then they could enact laws keeping slavery alive. And so Lincoln was like, "Yo, Grant, you better hurry up and finish this."
Basically, he wanted it over before the election.
That's politics, unfortunately, my man. But now they're coming after everybody, which shows they get no legitimacy. And in my book, they don't get to take down Confederate statues now. They don't get to take down. You take down Frederick Douglass's statue.
That's
ridiculous. How does that even?
I read
you're
that.
You're gonna take down Harriet Tubman's? That's the same thing.
Yeah, I read the Frederick Douglass story, and I'm like, you would have to have not educated yourself to have taken that down.
Can you just don't go? Don't you're just going all white man bad, all black man good. Let's just keep up the black.
Something.
It's so crazy.
Unfortunately, that's part of the climate that we're in. But I mean, it's the same thing.
Well, it was sculpted by a white man, so now a black man needs to sculpt it, or so, who knows? You know what I mean?
Though,
and Mount Rushmore, they're going after Mount Rushmore. Did you see what Colin Kaepernick apparently allegedly wrote?
I heard that he had put something on about the 4th of July on Twitter.
Well,
I didn't actually read it.
He doesn't celebrate
it's not
July
like his
4th because he doesn't
freedom.
celebrate white supremacy.
Okay.
You want a job? You want a job?
Well,
start your own team. The Black Panthers. Go start your own team.
They
already got one, the Panthers, somewhere. Go. Yeah, Cam Newton just left. Go join the Carolina Panthers. Call them the Carolina Black Panthers. Go ahead.
No,
you
can't get into that. I mean, now you sound like Donald Trump tweeting about the Redskins.
Huh?
Now you sound like Trump tweeting about the Redskins.
Well, I can't believe that they're caving on the Redskins name. What mostly infuriates me is when people hold, say 2 years ago, the Redskins owner, he was like, hell no, not happening. 2 years later, now he just caves. The owner, the president, Schwartz, or whatever his name is, Stuart Rosen something of Hofstra. Thomas Jefferson, hell no, 2 years ago. He's not moving. 2 years later, all right, we'll put him in the back somewhere where nobody can see him. It's all about having balls. Can we play a clip, an actual clip of something? It might be on YouTube or something. Actually, I want to play two clips. One's of Jason Whitlock last night on Tucker Carlson.
Oh, God. All right.
No, you're listening to what Jason Whitlock is saying.
Okay.
A black man.
I'll listen to Jason
Can you listen?
Whitlock for you.
Dude, Tucker Carlson's a genius. You got to watch him. Dude, open up your mind.
He literally said Tammy Duckworth hates America. I'm like,
she does. Oh, you did see that,
dude. She literally lost her legs for this country.
I know, but he makes a great point when because he brings up all that. He's like, well, nobody can criticize Tammy Duckworth because she was in a veteran, But he makes a great point that
she lost her fucking legs in Iraq.
But it doesn't mean you love America. If you love America, it means you don't want to change it to some fundamentally communist state.
Well, that doesn't mean you want equity. Out of context there. I mean,
it's not. No, she never actually said that. That's what I'm impugning upon her because I'm reading between the lines with all the craziness that she says. Stupid commercials.
Jason Whitlock asks, should white players support black players in NFL protesting?
Oh, it's about it. Let's see.
Whitlock is a commentator for Fox Sports.
Oh no,
he's also an overcooked chicken nugget.
Wait. Oh.
So Jason, here's what I don't understand.
No, this is not it. It's not it. Oh, that's okay to make fun of him. I don't try.
It would have to be one that's posted within the last couple of days, day or two.
I don't know. What else? Yeah, Tucker Carlson, Jason Whitlock's really the only way you're gonna get it. Try scrolling down. It was on that same night when Tammy Duckworth has no right to lecture. All right, play that one. See what that says. I think this is the one you're talking about.
So last night we played you long clips from the president's recent address at Mount Rushmore. It may have been the best speech Donald Trump has ever given. It was succinct and clear, and it was true. And for all of those reasons, the Democratic Party and its many minions absolutely hated it. They denounced the speech, and this may not come as a complete surprise to you, as, quote, racist. Now, that's a slur long divorced from any actual meaning, but we should tell you that as a factual matter, it's a lie. There was nothing even conceivably racist about Trump's speech. Go watch it for yourself. There's not a racist word or idea in the whole thing. The only time Trump even brought up the Civil War was to praise Abraham Lincoln, who, thank God, won it. He never mentioned the Confederacy or anyone in the Confederacy. Instead, Trump praised unabashed American heroes like George Washington, Clara Barton, the Wright brothers, Jackie Robinson. Senator Tammy Duckworth of Illinois watched Trump's speech, or claimed she did. Her
She looks like a duck.
Quote, he spent all his time talking about dead traitors. George Washington, Clara Barton, Jackie Robinson, they are all, according to Tammy Duckworth, dead traitors. Pretty shocking. In case you think we're being unfair here, in the same interview, Senator Duckworth was asked if we should tear down statues to George Washington. Sure, she responded, let's talk about it. We played that tape for you last night, and we noted how grotesque it was. Only someone who hates the country would suggest ripping down monuments to its founder. Apparently, Tammy Duckworth saw what we said. She didn't disagree with it exactly. Instead, she questioned our right to criticize her at all, since she was once injured while serving in the Illinois Army National Guard. That's what passes for an argument in modern identity politics. They don't address the points that you make. They question your right to make them at all. The irony, of course, is that George Washington himself, the dead traitor Tammy Duckworth has such contempt for, also served in the military. Washington spent most of his adult life under arms. He fought in 2 wars. At one point, during the winter of 1777, Washington lost almost a quarter of his entire army to cold and malnutrition. So George Washington paid his dues. He was, as we might say today, a combat veteran. And by the way, Washington also created the country we live in. George Washington was a genuinely great man. But to morons like Tammy Duckworth, Washington is just some old white guy who needs to be erased. Let's tear down his statues, rename our capital city Sharpton or Mandela, and let the revolution continue.
Now that's pretty fucking racist right there.
Changes that profound deserve a debate.
He just said, let's rename our capital Sharpton or Mandela.
Yeah, because that's what she loves, communism.
But a vigorous, reasoned exchange
Sharpton and Mandela? Come on. That's not communism.
Well,
that's
Mandela is certainly considered communism.
Nobody associates Mandela with communism before race.
Sharpton's just a race baiter.
All right. I think we get the gist of.
We get the gist. I just want.
There's another like 4 minutes.
Try the Marcellus Wiley one. Can you see if you find Marcellus Wiley?
It would have to be posted within like the last 2 days.
See, if that's racist,
Marcellus Wiley,
then
he's the black bald guy that used to be on
that's
NFL
racist.
Network.
That's racist. Describe him as a man with no hair. Oh, you can play that one. Terry Crews and Kanye West is running for president. We'll talk about that later.
That is still
right there. Terry Crews and Don Lemon. All right, tell me how you. I have a feeling which who you're going to side with, but Don Lemon is an a-hole.
Yeah,
I mean, oh my God, the way he legitimizes his like his argument against what Terry Crews is saying.
Weekend of gun violence in America's cities. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp calling in the National Guard after 31 people were shot in Atlanta.
Oh, there we go.
This is an 11-minute video.
And CNN's
Don Lemon, I just want to see. Well, it's worth hearing this whole video.
Over Black Lives Matter.
All right, it's worth hearing all.
Black people need to hold other black people accountable. I said this the same thing. This is the Black America's version of the Me Too movement.
The Black Lives Matter movement was started because it was talking about police brutality.
Okay,
if you want an all Black Lives Matter movement that talks about gun violence,
that's so stupid,
in communities, including black communities, then start that movement with that name. But that's not what Black Lives Matter is about.
So we'll get to all of this. Juan, let me start with you.
But you know what? That's also part of the problem, though.
That's
saying
what
like
Black
that's
Lives
stupid,
Matter means.
And I don't want
to
hear
all Black Lives Matter.
But that's also something that we were just getting to before when we were talking about the fact of saying like this side all good, this side all bad. I mean, anybody who thinks that like everyone in Black Lives Matter is like a terrible person, no. And anybody who thinks on the other side like all the police are terrible people. No, I mean...
But you're hearing a lot more rhetoric of, yes, all the police are terrible people.
Well, that's also because of the videos that are coming out.
All cops are bastards, or all cops are bad, or whatever. There's a lot of that.
There is a lot of that,
so
but I mean...
a big, a chunk of that... See if you can find the Marcellus Wiley video. Sorry, one more time. That's what's going on. And his defense, that's not, they're just talking about police brutality. Then why doesn't it say Black Lives Against Police Brutality? It says no. It says Black Lives Matter. And why is the constant mantra against that? All lives matter? Well, because that's the implication of what Black Lives Matter is implying. All Black Lives Matter. Do they need to put an all in front of it? And they don't, because then that gives them leeway to say, oh, well, look, our only issue is police brutality, even though we all know that so many more black people die from black-on-black crime. I mean, in vastly disproportionate numbers. So if that's the kind of game Dom Lemon wants to play, that's just sick. That's just perverse.
It's also not even taking into context, though, the fact of, like, it's not just police brutality, but all the videos that you see of like black people having the cops called on them for just stupid shit. Not even just the ones that go viral. There's a million of them that don't go viral. But I understand what you're saying.
Okay, so then that's what
some people are taking it to an extent.
So how about a black cop that gets killed by another black person?
No, but that's exactly what I'm just saying. Like, just for anyone who says, like, everyone in Black Lives Matter, good or bad, and everybody as a cop is good or bad, I mean...
But the point is, why can't Black Lives Matter incorporate those dead black cops? Why is that too much?
Because they feel like they're being marginalized by the police.
And that's a good enough reason to let those other black cops who are decent people just...
I don't think so, no. But I guess to certain people, I mean... They do have that point of view. I mean, and we're trying to figure out how the hell we can all figure a way to come together.
You're right. They can have that. I'm glad you at least see that as wrong, but that's fair. They can have that point of view, but they're gaining a lot of power now, and they're gaining it on a lot of different points that are hard to argue against because they're so crazy. It's like either agree with us or also you're dead. I mean, that's basically what it feels like. Even again, that's why you see some like Jason Whitlock was on Tucker Carlson last night pushing back against it. Marcellus Wiley, Terry Crews was just pushing back against it. Those are three prominent, big-time black guys, NFL players. I mean, those are big-time guys pushing back against it. The Marcellus Wiley clip, sorry.
But I mean, to the same extent, I mean, you're also seeing people that are coming out and support it, from LeBron James to every NFL player.
Yeah, of course, but that's because they have no balls. They just, it's an agenda.
You can't say they have no balls.
I can say they have no balls. That's the same guy that supported China over the Hong Kong protesters because he wanted to keep his money safe. Now, he's a baby. He's a mindless, ignorant little baby. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He just wants to protect his money. He just wants to make movies.
I mean, he
doesn't
also
even care about playing
started a
nonprofit
school and started a super PAC. I mean,
my bleeding heart.
To say that, he's just a fucking baby and has no fucking morals.
He is. I'm sorry, if you can support China over Hong Kong protesting for their rights, waving the American flag.
That China thing with the NBA was absolutely ridiculous.
How hard is it to just support your own? Even if you don't support your own country, support your own fellow, guy. Like, stand up for the GM of the Rockets, Daryl Morey. Don't throw him under the bus. Is that it right there? Yeah. Below Tucker. Colin Kaepernick says Nike's support for Colin Kaepernick will destroy America. Tucker Carlson. Well, we know
that one's posted 1 year ago. The one before that is 22 hours ago.
But keep going.
Like that one right there.
The Oreo sandwich right there. The two black guys and one white guy in the middle right there. Did you know that Hershey's milk chocolate makes the chocolate in Oreos? I just found that on. You ever watch Food? They built
it's not a good idea.
Go.
I do want to give the players credit for their flex to even get this to be more than just an idea, but something that's going to be in reality. I give the players that. But there's a problem with when you start to go down this road of the freedom of expression, freedom of speech, and how much social space is allowed for those who don't support in that same space. And that's where I wonder where this is going to go in terms of identity politics. We know what identity politics does. It divides and it polarizes. No matter how you want to look at it, that's just the effect of it, no matter how great the intentions are. And we all know the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So it's an interesting play right here. I don't know how many people really look into the mission statement of Black Lives Matter.
And they should.
But I did. And when you look into it, there's a couple things that jump out.
That's a good point, though. Like, we can close it there, though.
And I'm a black man who's been black, and my life is...
Because, like, I feel that it is to a point now where people do need to actually examine, what is the actual end game focus of what is.
Of course.
Because, it did kind of, either side of the spectrum you want to be on, it did kind of morph organically, out of, needs that people felt that they were being wronged.
Right. Well, it started with George Floyd, but then quickly morphed into something else.
It started before
all
Floyd,
about George Floyd. Well, yes, it had.
That was an immediate catalyst, but it's a good point that he made that it needs to be discussed. Really, what is the end, focus here that is going to be, all this energy is going to be contributed towards? Because, like we were just talking about, it is getting into scenarios where Frederick Douglass is being taken down and Grant's being taken down, and if there are certain, situations where you want to say, okay, we need to put context on, monuments to, Washington or Jefferson, we can have that discussion. But, there are certain situations where it's like too far.
Absolutely. Well, I just wanted, he makes it
I see this point that you're making here.
He makes a more specific point, though.
Yeah, let's keep going. There's only like 2 more minutes left of this video, so let's keep rolling.
Yeah, play till.
Mattered since 1974, and this organization was founded in 2013. I'm proud of you, but I've been fighting this fight for me and for others a lot longer. 2 things. My family structure is so vital, important to me. Not only the one I grew up in, but the one I'm trying to create right now. Being a father and a husband, that's my mission in life right now. How do I reconcile that, what I just told you, with this mission statement that says, quote, we dismantle the patriarchal practice. We disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement. When I know statistics, when I know my reality, forget statistics. I knew this before I even went to Columbia and saw these same statistics that I'm going to read to you right now. That children from single-parent homes versus 2-parent homes. The children from the single-parent homes, this is in 1995 I was reading this. 5 times more likely to commit suicide, 6 times more likely to be in poverty, 9 times more likely to drop out of high school, 10 times more likely to abuse chemical substances, 14 times more likely to commit rape, 20 times more likely to end up in prison, and 32 times more likely to run away from home. I knew that. You know why I knew it? Because a lot of my friends didn't have family structures that were nuclear like mine, and they found themselves outside of their dreams and goals and aspirations. So when I see that, or as a mission statement for Black Lives Matter, it makes me scratch my head. When I also see their mission is to eradicate white supremacy. In 2020, white supremacy is the mission. Woo, that's a lot of digging through minutia right there. I am on a show that I'm hosting along with another black guy who is hosting with me, who replaced another black guy. And that's just one example of it. So I understand, I respect your space. I respect what you're protesting for. But will you respect others who don't support that same protest?
That's good. Yeah, all right. Okay. He said it all for me. He pretty much said it all for me.
It's a really good point, too. I don't know if you've actually, listened to him speak about his background, but he was kind of raised by his uncles and stuff that kind of kept him out of gangs. When he was playing high school football, he had actually given an interview where he had told of an experience where they were playing down in Compton or Crenshaw, and a rival gang was actually in a housing project shooting into the field as the players were warming up. He's like, and you literally see all the players and the refs hit the field, and you see the bullet, hitting the field and shooting up plumes of dirt.
I believe it.
But, he makes a good point in the sense that what is, your real end game towards what are you trying to push for? Because it's a fight that a lot of people have been fighting for a long time. And he makes a point that, he's hosting a show and he's, got a very prominent, position where he's got a voice to talk about this. And he's hosting it with another black man, coming from a situation where he's replacing another black man. There's also a lot of people that feel like they're held down in certain situations and they don't have the same opportunities. And a lot of the statistics that he was quoting are exacerbated by those situations. So I think a lot of this discussion about
systemic oppression, is that what you're trying to say?
Well, I think a lot of the discussion that people are talking about, defund the police, it needs to be how can we reallocate certain resources in the police budget
and to some
reinforce
people,
things in those
that might be what they're trying to do. And it's clear to some that they are trying to, like Ocasio-Cortez made pretty clear after the $1 billion was cut from the NYPD budget, that wasn't what she said. No, when we say defund the police, we mean defund
the police.
So,
where, I mean, there's certain people
when your politicians are saying that, well,
it really is, you know, it used to be traditionally that would be a fringe, you know,
if that. I don't even know if I've really ever heard even a fringe organization say get rid of the police. Maybe on the right, actually.
You know, something, it's a legitimate discussion to actually be had, though, because of the topics that he just brought.
What's legitimate? What he brought up, or defund the police?
The statistics that he brought up there, right. And, you know, how, you know, those situations, you know, affect the community and how it, you know, really marginalizes people. And a discussion probably should be had of if we can reallocate certain resources better into these communities that are going to alleviate those situations, then how do we
But I think that's the 2020 liberal view of it. I don't think that's actually what I think. What he's saying is the crux of the matter is, like he said, my mission in life is being a father.
Yeah.
You want to take that away, the nuclear family structure. Look at us without it already. 65, 70% of black families do not have a father. And look at where we're at. And then he read off the statistics. So I think what he's trying to say is, look, we've got to, whether it is allocated resources or not, the main goal is not just...
You still have to do it.
You have to fix that home first.
Yeah.
Not even that you have to do it yourself. There's more than enough people willing to help. We see that, right?
Yeah.
It's just somehow it's not getting done, you know? And I think it's that's why it's a twofold approach makes sense for me.
Yeah.
The police need to be there. You flood the zones, bring in a lot of police, but not in a martial law we're taking over just to arrest the criminals sort of. It's more like stand on the corner, establish authority, and so the social workers and stuff can go into the homes and make their rounds and assess and see what's, you know what I'm saying? Does that sound like
community policing? That sounds like a good idea.
Like a two-pronged approach, like just an all-out, you know, and then see what we have an idea what they are, and then fix. However, that's gonna be a long road trying to get the fathers to stay in the homes. That's a cultural thing, and white people have that problem. And even the problem, the groups like the Asians and such that don't have that problem, I'm sure they will eventually down the line. That's just kind of seems, you know,
an American problem. I mean, 50% of divorce. I mean, 50% of marriages. I think more end up in divorce. I mean, I don't know. I mean, how that ties into.
I think that also ties into. Remember, we've only been since the 1900s. We've doubled in lifespan, right? It used to be at the 1900s you only lived to 40 years old, so it wasn't a long marriage.
I don't think it was quite 40. I think it was probably a little bit more than that. But
no.
Roughly,
look it up.
I mean,
you can look it up.
Is it 40?
Look it up. Look
is
up
it 40 years old?
at the turn of the century, 1900s.
That sounds medieval to me.
I know, that's how quickly it doubled. So we think about all the things we've had to really deal with. Women in the workforce, right, and in large numbers, and now wanting more and higher positions, allowing non-whites into our workforce, into our daily life.
Well, it's not really allowing. I mean, that's kind of.
You know what I mean? Forget the semantics. Just what I'm saying is just. Like the interaction of, look at all the sexual assault cases you hear about now, right? Like, you know, women were first let's see what this says first. Life expectancy data. The average lifespan was considerably less than 50.
Less than 50 years.
It began to markedly rise in the 19th century, hitting 49. In the U.S. in 1990, and then so let's say 49. What the New York Times? Oh, they lie about everything. But all right, today the average age, it's about let's just say double for argument's sake. You can go to Japan and we live to be 90. We've actually had our average lifespan dropping here for the last 3 years.
Yeah, I have seen that.
Yeah,
actually.
So it's basically doubled or close to doubled in the past 100 years. That's a lot to deal with. Now you're talking about being married an extra 20, 30, 40, 50 years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's something we haven't. So we're actually reconciling with a lot of different issues we never had to deal with before, you know. And so that means saving for retirement, Social Security. That's why we have more socialized programs, because we need to, because people can only work till they're 65, so old, and then they're basically they're kind of useless, and then they need to retire off what they earned. You know, it's like they contributed.
And then
so
the strain is they're retiring and living so much longer. I mean, it used to, like you just brought up, I mean, you used to not live as long. I mean, so
right, yeah.
So I mean, Social Security for nearly
right. It wasn't a problem. People could hate socialism a lot more 100 years ago because people weren't living nearly as long. That's why, that's why, could you imagine if the founding fathers or the people who started the Boston Tea Party saw the taxes that we have to deal with today?
Yeah.
They would,
go
oh my
crazy.
God,
I mean,
they literally started a revolt over a 2% tax.
Yeah.
Okay. And they,
but I mean, it's just how points of view morph over time. Because I think people would also agree. I mean, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, labor unions. I mean, these are positive aspects to our economy and our society. So I mean, it's just those are certain things that people come to accept and appreciate. So.
Right, yeah. I mean, look, and a lot of those started in 1900, with Teddy Roosevelt. Labor unions, 8-hour workday, such and such. A Republican, by the way. But yeah, I mean, and then unfortunately there's a flip side too. I mean, I don't know which side I totally fall on. Again, I don't necessarily know enough about unions or not, but I'm certainly all for unions when people are working in like coal mines and but. Do you need a union in like a tech company? You know what I'm saying? But
yeah.
So there's places where it works and doesn't work. But I mean, we by all metrics we do a pretty darn good job still nowadays, and that's what bothers me. What bothers me is the picture as a whole. It's no matter what. If you go around, you ask people, do you live in the greatest time to be alive?
They'll tell you no.
Yes. Well, they'll tell you no, but
like right now, everyone's saying no.
Well, let me break it up. If I say, do you live in the greatest time to be alive, like medically, so on? Let me nuance it. They'll say yeah. They're like like okay, maybe you might have had, I don't know, more freedom, and if you're a man in 1850 or whatever. But you're not going to want to live in 1850 because you would have lived to be 39.
Exactly.
You would have had to marry a 15-year-old and. To some guys, maybe that's okay.
It would not be as good. You would not have your perks.
But if you ask people, do you feel like you're the happiest now, or do you like your country, or do you think things are going well? So many would say no, right?
Everyone's miserable.
And that's crazy. That's a crazy. That shouldn't be like that. It doesn't make any sense. So, clearly there's a disconnect there. We're doing something wrong, and again, that can differ on what we're doing wrong. My very, very simplified version is that we've gone away, obviously, like as you can see, Hamilton, people want to cancel that because it promotes our founders.
And
like,
also
we hate our country now.
And just
we hate our founders.
Talking about what we were talking about at the start of this podcast, I mean, look how hard we had to look to find some positive news. I mean, there's nothing positive, so people are just
it's all clickbait nonsense, and
people
also
snipe it at each other in comments, like
and so extremism has now taken hold, and unfortunately, it's gone really far left to the far left extremism. And extremism is never good. So remember we started that last podcast. I spoke mostly about respect.
Yeah.
The new sort of like mantra of today, I would say, is extremism is never good on either side. People need to stay away from extremism. And no, go on.
Like whenever you see, and bringing up extremism, because you see people at these protests and stuff like that, and the point of a protest is usually to make a point and enlighten others and bring people to your side. But so often you see just people screaming at each other. And I get, the media wants to put, these angry images on TV because it's what people pay attention to. But in actuality, I mean, the loudest one in the room is the weakest one in the room. I mean, that saying was not come up with for no reason at all. If you actually want to have change and bring people into your movement and you want to, advance your issues, you got to be able to just speak and make your point on your point, not attacking someone's character, And unfortunately, that's just not how things are done in this day and age.
Well, that's why I would
It's just about going viral.
Unfortunately. And that's why I would hope people would actually watch Hamilton, like especially the hardcores, the extremes, the ones that want to tear down the statues in particular. Watch Hamilton. Hey, here's a bunch of, Hispanics and black people playing white people, our founding fathers who built this country.
Because they're inspired by the story.
Right, and telling the mythology of them, mostly fact-based, but, they don't get into, people want to call it, a glorification, like Gone with the Wind. They compare it to Gone with the Wind.
It's just like we were saying, context. Like, please, can you just appreciate something? It's actually like everyone's trying to celebrate this one principle that
That's why I hate these classes. Like I had a college class on like Muslims and movies. I'm like, for half the time, the answer to my teacher was like, dude, it's just a movie, bro. Like, it's just a movie. This doesn't mean what you're saying it means. This doesn't mean. He's like, well, the movie started in Egypt. And, oh, what does that say about the Egyptian? And he found a relic there. And I'm like, dude, first, a lot of Egyptian relics were usually found in Egypt. He was talking about the movie The Exorcist. And I'm like, that's kind of where they're found. But no, and he's like, no, but there was an evil relic, so that means the Egyptians are evil. And then I'm like, it's not like it was the guy was Jewish in the exorcism. He was Catholic. No, they didn't hate like, you're reading way too much into it, bro.
Yes.
And then everyone, I can remember this in my class, especially all these like far left liberal white girls were all like, anytime they would see a white guy, like with blonde hair, that'd be like the first and only thing they could like point out. Be like, oh, white man. Probably straight, blonde hair, cut up, looks like a German, he looks like a Nazi, basically. So this movie's racist. And it was it. That was the end of the discussion. I had a girl there was a girl that walked out of a class because our teacher showed us a picture of Hitler. Not Hitler, excuse me. Osama. And apparently her brother was like a Navy SEAL. And so like I gave her some credit for that, and so, but she was like, apparently she had also like lived in Arab land somewhere over there for a little bit. But I'm like, it was a picture of Osama, clearly a picture of Osama. And they're going around the classroom and people are saying I don't know exactly what the other people said, but then they get to me and I'm like, what do you want me to say? I'm like, it's Osama. I'm like, that's a bad dude. Right. She like gets up and walks out. And apparently like she had a conversation with the teacher. Like she was like, they were criticizing the Muslims. They were evil. They were racist. They were all racist.
And it was literally just, you showed up to class. They said, what do you think of this picture? And you said, it's Osama bin Laden. What
yeah,
do you want me to give you a breakdown?
Literally like the next one was a white girl. And then she actually like got the ball. She's like, yeah, that's Osama bin Laden. That's basically the face of evil. And then they all kind of got their balls, like their common sense. But sometimes it just takes one person to stand up and just say the obvious.
I get exactly what you
know what
I
mean.
Where it's like, and actually to that point, I think it was Jane Goodall. She was the one who did like the brown eyes, blue eyes experiment with kids in school.
Wasn't that the panda woman?
Was it her?
The ape woman, Jane Goodall.
All right. Whichever one was the one who did the brown eyes, blue eyes.
I think I know the experiment you're talking about, but not the name of the person.
She's like 87 years old now, and she actually gave an interview.
Could be Jane Goodall.
She had done an interview. It was on Yahoo earlier this week, and she was basically bringing up like one of the instances where she had the same situation happen, where a girl picked up and walked out during like one of the classroom exercises.
Yeah.
And the whole point she made was like, you know something, there are some people that don't have that option to just pick up and walk out if you don't agree with it. Like, you have to be able to just, as a human being, be able to tolerate sometimes something that you don't agree with. It may not be someone trying to offend you. It may just be something you don't agree with, and you have to be able to do that as like just a functioning person.
Right, that's what I said. Back to respect. It's just got to be this universal.
And that's what people don't have. So many people are just like, I'll unfriend you. I don't want to hear this. I'm not seeing this. Change the channel. Cancel everything. And it's on both sides, and it's just ridiculous.
Well, that's why I saw number one Trump speech in front of Mount Rushmore, which apparently the Democrats want to blow up because it's white supremacy. He's finally starting to talk about cancel culture, how we got to get rid of it. And then actually I saw, I don't know, can you pull this up too? A bunch of like big time writers, like Barry Weiss of New York Times. She's Jewish, but she with like 1,000 other people wrote an open letter calling for an end to cancel culture. And I'm like, it's about damn time. You know,
if we literally like, it's gonna get to a point where it's like nothing is allowed. Nothing is allowed, period.
It's all right. Nothing's allowed right now. It just can't keep going on.
For some of these companies, I get the PR that they have to go through, that, they have stockholders, they have advertisers.
Oh, J.K. Rowling was on it too, I think.
But like you've heard, like they're taking down certain episodes of like All in the Family and the Golden Girls, and I get they have to do that for the time being because of, their advertisers and all that. But it's like long term, people, just like we were saying before, they have to view things with context and understand that not everything is to freaking offend you.
Right. Here, liberal writers sign an open letter. So Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling. These are people who hate Trump.
Yeah.
Editor Barry Weiss and political actors Noah Chomsky and a few more, over 100 names, titled a piece, A Letter on Justice and Open Debate. Now, of course, I think it's like a twofold one. Our cultural institutions are facing a moment of trial. Powerful protests for racial and social justice are leading to overdue demands for police reform. So of course, they agree with all that. Along with wider calls for greater equality and inclusion, and not at least in our heart. Okay, so they want all that stuff, but they also, then they say later on, while the letter calls President Trump a real threat to democracy, it also warns that the resistance should not be hardened into its own brand of dogma or coercion, insisting that an intolerant climate has plagued both sides of the aisle. Well, I disagree with that because it's really one side of the aisle.
Well, I mean, you can't say that. I mean,
well, I don't know any like Republicans that get like or have had to lose their jobs just because maybe like I can remember like 20 years ago if you had like an infidelity thing, then Republicans were screwed because they were the evangelists and you can't like bang anyone outside of your wife. Remember like John Edwards and all those people, but that time kind of passed. But in any sense, the free exchange of information and ideas, the lifeblood of a liberal society, is daily becoming more constricted. While we have come to expect this on the radical right, I can't see that word, censoriousness is also spreading. Oh, censoriousness, I'm an idiot. I can't. Is also spreading more widely in our culture. An intolerance of opposing views, a vogue for public shaming and ostracism, and it goes on, and a tendency to dissolve complex policy issues in a blinding moral certainty. Yeah, it's basically about these purity tests that they all have, and it's like if you said something 30 years ago, like look at Jimmy Kimmel. I mean, I don't know what he's still dealing. If he's still, they're not going to cancel him, but he's still dealing with it.
Well, that's what every single celebrity is having to deal with this now, where they're having old clips of things dredged up from their past, and they're having to apologize or having to go underground for it.
Yeah, I mean, Harry Potter, she just came out and said, like...
she said something about trans, there was trans women,
well, there was a story that said something about... they used the word people who menstruate instead of women. And she's like, I think the term is wombat, women. You know what I'm saying? Because, like... Yeah, people who menstruate are only women.
Yeah.
You know, it's like enough of this politically correct BS. And I heard that like she's under fire for defending the concept of biological sex, which critics have deemed transphobic. I mean, this is the problem with the left, and this is why everyone hates them. This is why we live in the crazy world that we live in. It's like, how is this even a fight? There's like you and I growing up. There's only two sexes. Like I'm willing to die on that hill. So should everybody else. Like there can't be another sex. Just because you had a surgery that gives you another sex doesn't mean. And there's certainly no sex called questioning or it or they or you know what I mean. I can see you like I don't know what you're getting at. I'm afraid about what you're saying.
I feel like we've had this discussion before, and I'm like I sympathize if that's what you want to. If it makes you feel better. To me personally, it's, you know, if you want to check other or do not disclose.
Well, that's one thing, but it shouldn't be on a list or whatever.
I remember we were having a discussion in like New York State. There's like, what was it, 119 different genders or something? Where I'm like, I don't see or understand.
They're not based on science. If they were based on science, okay. If someone had a new revelation and they challenged your courage, that's how it works.
If that's how she feels, I mean, that's how she feels. I mean, if you don't agree with it,
that's how she feels. What do you mean?
Like J.K. Rowling. I mean, if that's how she feels on that, and you have such a moral stance that
but that's how everyone should feel. There's only two genders. It's not It's not a moral stance. It's a biological, proven science.
To deny that, I mean, there is a big movement of trans human beings and stuff like that.
It's not a social construct. And that's what the trans community and all these postmodern activists are calling it. They're trying to say everything's a social construct and that science isn't real is essentially what they're saying. Like they don't even, there's a real push to call, to get rid of like STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math because it's bias and it's all just a social contract because it was created by white men.
That's just like
so
something
inherently
that's like
racist.
That's not to like draw a white man's point of view to it, but it's kind of like defund the police, where it's like you can't do away with that. You just can't do away with the STEM fields. I mean, you just can't do away with science, technology, engineering.
You would
math.
hope,
I
but
mean, you can't. I mean, you need that as
these
a society.
people are getting more and more power, and it's hard to debate them because when they say something like is a social construct, that means that then they can morph it into any way that they want to suit their own viewpoint. So like that way.
That's definitely true to an extent.
That book, White Fragility.
But for someone to say, I mean, like if someone wants to, live their life as a woman and they're a man,
different.
I mean,
that's not what I'm talking about. That's totally different.
I mean, good
but they're now putting it in science books. They're now putting it, like on like you go to take the LSAT. It's on there. If you go to, they I saw Taylor Swift tweeted something like, on the U.S. citizenship of the census, it only says man and woman. That's hate speech against trans people. Like, that's crazy. You've entered Looney Town. You know what I'm saying?
That's not a field that existed when they came up with the application. I mean, I get what she's trying to say, but it's also, like we have, said, context on things. I mean, that's, how the application was
and
always
these are
done
also
in the past.
The J.K. Rowlings and Barry Weiss. They're big-time ardent far leftists. They just haven't – they're just not crazy.
But
like, you know what I mean?
It's also getting back to what we've been talking about. I mean, you should never be completely on one side of the political spectrum.
Never.
Like, there should always be something that, like, you support that's on the other side of the spectrum. Like, my view on foreign policy goes very hard Republican. I'm interventionalist, invade everyone.
Really?
Very much so.
So who would you invade right now?
Syria.
Syria? What do we need to be doing in Syria?
Oh, dude, I would have gotten rid of Bashar Assad and rid the Russians of their freaking influence in the Mediterranean. Oh, yeah, I would have done that, and I would have rolled back any freaking influence they would have had in Turkey. I would have gotten the Turks to close the Bosphorus to them. I would have been squeezing the Russians over freaking Crimea. I would have been putting troops in Poland.
What? You have to stay there?
No, you squeeze them economically over that. I would have been putting troops in Poland. I would have been having rotational troops in the Baltics. I would have sent a carrier to the freaking Baltics.
You should have worked for instead of John Bolton. You
should
have been.
Like I said, there's always something that you should agree with on the other side of the political spectrum, whether it's, you're on the right and you agree with leftist immigration, or if you're on the left and you agree with, right-wing foreign policy. I mean, you should never be... It's not natural to be a straight ticket. I agree with everything on this side and everything on that side is bad. Like, that's not taking an objective point of view to anything. And if you don't have the ability to criticize and look constructively on things, then you're really just not doing anyone a service.
Would you attack China?
I would squeeze them over a lot of different issues, from Hong Kong to Taiwan.
They're hard to, though. They're a big animal because even when Trump wants to, there's so many other voices.
It also, when it comes to China, it affects so many different facets of your economy.
They have so much. They have some serious control over us in certain ways.
The Russians is a lot different. It's a much different animal to deal with.
What's funny is John Bolton, after quitting or being fired or whatever, he actually never wanted to go after China because he still somehow lives, I don't know, in the Cold War era and doesn't see them as much of a threat. And I'm like, are you serious? I'm like, their GDP is larger than ours, bro, and they have 1.3 billion people that they're willing to sacrifice to
literally
die.
It's their government's policy to steal technology from Western
They are
culture.
still, dude. I was reading an article. They're stealing our movie theaters if they haven't already. They're completely invested in all of them. They own more than 50% of all the big ones.
They're coming through with a lot of these different.
They own IBM. They own more than 50. Like, they control a lot of these companies that we consider American companies still.
A lot of real estate too. I mean, tons of real estate.
Yeah, no, it's sick. It's sad.
Well, they also are buying a lot of docks and things like that in a lot of foreign countries. So that way they are able to kind of monitor traffic commercially that's going on from other countries and kind of able to give themselves, better deals. And
well, our hope is India, actually. India is our one hope. Did you hear about that fight that they had where they killed each other? I told you about that thing last week. India and China had a fight somewhere in the mountains.
17 Indian troops died. Yeah,
but they had a rock fight and
they
fell off the cliff.
Yeah, man. India and China, I mean, it's like one of those things that they're gonna pop off at each other, but I mean, they both have nuclear weapons, so it's like, okay, we gotta squash this.
No, you can blow each other up. But I think India, because India now apparently has been driving some warships nearby in China's territory.
Well, I mean, the Indians have always had a policy of maintaining carriers. I mean, mostly Russian second, class carriers that tend to break down and don't really do their jobs. But I mean, as a status symbol, they always make it a point to show up in the South China Sea and project themselves out into the Indian Ocean. So,
yeah. All right. What do you say we take a quick break? All right.
All right. Back in 5.
Back in 1.
Back in 1. All right.
Not much time. girls. And guys. Yeah, how you doing? We're back. Sorry for that short break. I have a small bladder for a large man.
Getting to that age, man. It gets all of us.
Yeah, well, I have
gets
a
all
big
of us.
prostate, so it's pushing everything up. Yeah, it's all steroids and pushing the prostate up.
All right, so let's find something that's a little bit, I guess.
No, this is not. This is interesting. I think a lot of people won't know this.
All right, interesting's good then for something to wrap up. So
yeah.
let's
so
shift topics a little bit.
Yeah. So like I said, so I want to see if we can pull this clip up. It's
what is this? It's Joe Rogan.
Everybody knows Joe Rogan. It's Joe Rogan talking to an evolutionary biologist, I believe, Eric Weinstein. You possibly could have heard of him.
Is he the guy with the long beard? Wears the hockey jerseys? Drinks like the craft beer?
I don't know.
Or was he like the paleontologist? I've seen him a bunch of different people
I think that's on Pawn Stars. The guy with the long beard and white hat.
No. Rogan has definitely had like a paleontologist that's like been on his show with him.
Oh, there's two Weinsteins. There's Eric Weinstein and like Brett Weinstein. Is it Eric Weinstein? Brett Weinstein, excuse me.
And full disclaimer for people that like don't
Eric
know
Weinstein
anything.
does a good one about the IQ, but let's not get into that. That scares people. The differences in IQ between races. Well, let's there we go. It should be the first one. Let's see. Wait, hold on. No. I'm sorry.
We got to distinguish where this is because this is like a 25-minute clip.
Brett Weinstein. Oh, shut down STEM right there. It is 27 minutes. We'll get through what we can get through. I want to hear the opening bit, like maybe the opening 10 minutes. What do we got? Like 15 minutes left. Yeah. So let's see. All right, turn it on. Let's see. I'll tell you where to jump.
And I have listened to it very closely. It is explicitly about disassembling the very things that make the West marvelous. Right? It is anti-science. Right? It does not want policy based on science. In fact,
How so?
Now, what is he criticizing here?
Last week, presumably. That
I don't know if he's criticizing Black Lives Matter
or Science Magazine.
Well, let's just listen for a second.
Caltech. It got all of these
shut down STEM.
Absolutely top-level scientific institutions to broadcast.
He's talking about shut down
STEM.
What?
Oh yeah.
No, I'm not aware of this at all.
Oh, well, and this is another thing.
Right here.
We're losing our minds because, to me, the idea that you would be unaware of this is hard to imagine because it was so
too much going on.
It was so thoroughly all over my feed, though. But I'm discovering this. There's stuff absent from my feed, too, that I should know about, and I'm finding the same thing.
Well, here's the thing. Yep. I don't read my feed.
Well, you don't read your Twitter feed, but you're plugged into enough people. You have enough conversations in this room.
Things have to be, like, almost nuclear before I'm paying attention to them these days, just for my own personal sanity.
Yeah.
I've stepped away from almost all social media other than posting.
Yeah, it's actually, if I can say something perfectly weird, I don't really aspire to great wealth. I never have.
Brett Weinstein,
but there is
this
part
guy
of me that wants to be wealthy enough that I can
an evolutionary biologist.
My feeds.
Right. And he went to Evergreen. He used to teach at Evergreen State.
But anyway,
but actually, that's you know what we were just talking about. I mean, literally, there's so much. So much going on that literally, like, you can't hear about everything that's going on.
Oh,
and
yeah.
This is something that, I mean, I'm pretty sure you and I had the same reaction that Joe Rogan just had, where it's like, wait, shut down STEM, and this is coming from like our best like technological schools. I mean, that can't be true. I mean,
it gets even more interesting. But basically, he a couple of years ago, his school, Evergreen State, I think in Washington State, and this guy's like a far left Bernie Sanders fan. He's right up your alley. He's your kind of guy, and he went to. They basically had a no white school day. Like nobody who was white could be on campus that day.
I think I had heard about that.
And he showed up, and I don't know if it was accidentally or
like
on
not
purpose,
trying to
whatever.
Like, be a racist,
but they called him a Nazi. They called him a racist. A mob surrounded him, threatened him, yada yada yada. And basically, the school sided against him. They sided like with the students. They were chasing him around campus like with baseball bats and so on and so forth. So he had to flee. And I remember he said he went and sat down with the school like a year later and said they basically had learned nothing. And these kids are just out of control. And I think now he's trying to sue. I don't know where he's at now exactly, but
I think Rogan had another podcast about who were forced to take an opposing side of view at a law school, and they went to the dean and complained because they didn't like the point of view they were forced to take. And
that's
it's like,
where we're at.
No, if you're going to work as a defense attorney, you may be forced to defend something that you don't agree with.
The guy
that's part of the job.
At Harvard, who was a black guy who was the defense attorney for Harvey Weinstein, had to resign from Harvard.
I mean,
so you can play it though. Play it.
I gotta hear this. So,
well, what he says is very interesting.
I mean, cancel
also
STEM.
about the whole school system and the
systemic racism in STEM. More than 5,000 scientists in 2 prominent scientific journals shut down operations and pledged to use the day to address racial inequalities in science. The strike follows 2 weeks of demonstrations spurred by the police killing of George Floyd, a black man who died after a white police officer. People on social media are spreading word about the strike with the hashtag #ShutDownAcademia.
Hey, look, he's doing what we're doing.
STEM.
Like we all had the same reactions. Like that.
He's reading Google off of his screen.
Shut down STEM is equally terrifying.
I'm Joe Rogan.
It's effective.
What do you expect?
Well,
it's good
if you shut down academia,
I need 10,000 views.
What are they saying when they say systemic racism in STEM? What does it mean? It's representation in terms of what are they saying?
So this is so sad because truly, if you really wanted to raise black people out of the quagmire, the economic quagmire they find themselves in, if you wanted to do it en masse, you would arm them with the most powerful tools, right? The most powerful tool, and the tool that is best positioned to address biases, especially subtle biases, is science. That's what the scientific method does. It's one reason for existing, is that it takes that which you think and allows you to see why it is wrong, right? It takes your biases and forces you to see what's wrong with them. That's what science is for. Now, the reason that this movement is attacking STEM has to do with the connection of this movement to critical theory. And critical theory didn't come from the sciences. The word theory is basically pilfered. Right? It's being used in a most ironic fashion. Critical theory is a narrative that's now becoming a religious movement, and it is anti-STEM on the basis that it claims that STEM itself, science itself, is racist inherently.
What do they mean when they're saying critical theory?
Yeah.
What does that encompass?
Well, my understanding is that critical theory was born as an honorable investigation of biases that exist inside of our court system, racial biases. And that it has now morphed into something that its originators don't recognize and don't respect. That it has become basically, I mean, you've had Jordan Peterson on your podcast many times, once with me. And, what he talks about with respect to these are cultural Marxists, and they are wielding this postmodern doctrine. What he's talking about is critical theory, right? Critical theory is basically a Trojan horse that exists in academic departments that are dedicated to its study. And what it does is it uninvents progress in other fields. And that's a very uninteresting process when it's hiding away in some corner of your university where you don't have to listen to it. But what has happened is it has now reached enough people that it has spilled out into public. And the nonsense that you hear about shutting down academia, shutting down STEM, abolishing the police, all of this is standard fare in those phony departments.
When you say uninvents progress,
yeah,
what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean that we have a system, and I'm as upset about what doesn't work about it as anybody. But we have a system that accomplishes
this guy's a far
great
left
deal.
Bernie Sanders,
and this style of thought.
No, but
they just lost an ally.
All of these departments.
I mean, I totally get what he's talking about in the sense that
don't actually function.
You can have basically something that it's a scientific study where it's studying actual, racial biases in the judicial system. I mean, that sounds like it could actually have serious merit in science.
And that was the original intent.
And that was the original intent. And he's bringing up the point that other people have basically just hijacked it and they've taken the platform and it's a message that
that's what
no
he's trying
longer.
To say. And that's where he starts though. But listen to what he says next. No, go on. If you want to say something else if you want.
No, but I mean
what?
It's tough to get into.
Say whatever you say. Criticize. Say whatever.
No, I actually agree with what he's saying, but I mean, it's something that you can apply to a lot of different areas of society where, somebody could have a very good, interest. You know, we were just talking about Black Lives Matter a short while ago, and basically, I think we could all, agree that there was, an organic, build up, that there was a very, very good purpose, and we're starting to have the conversation of what's the end game to it, because like we were just discussing before, I mean, there's people that are advocating some policies that are just not feasible.
And those are probably both
mainstream.
Good examples.
I mean, is not, not just mainstream, but like,
if you listen to what he says, you'll see now.
But you see the correlation that there could be something
analogy.
That's like a very it's got a good purpose, and then somebody can take the platform, hijack it, deforms it, and
But yeah,
I'm not saying that that's something like exactly what's happened, but
I know he likes it.
By normal rules of logic or the scientific process, these things are an attack. They're like an autoimmune disease of
gender, queer gender studies.
By and large,
that's what you're all
the
about.
Scientific part of the academy.
That's what I'm.
I mean, I just say whatever makes you happy.
Tries to do its work, but what has happened is that the dynamics, the demographics have changed, such that these departments, which weren't taken seriously by the sciences, are now dictating terms to the sciences, which couldn't possibly be more dangerous, because to the extent that the argument, more or less, is that the sciences are unfairly biased in favor of those who are currently successful, and that bias is actually preventing people who are not succeeding under current conditions from getting there. And therefore,
that's what a lot of people say.
We need to hobble these disciplines to level the playing field. Well, imagine that America surrendered its advantage in the sciences in order to even if you could level the playing field inside of the U.S. by doing that, which you can't, but even if you could, this would so hobble us in the world that it would be an insane policy to pursue.
Of course.
Is there any debate going on about this? Clearly what they're saying is, if you're looking at the vast majority of the scientists, they represent what is it? European Jews are a lot of them. There's a lot of various people of European ancestry, Asian folks, less African Americans, less Africans. So they're saying that because of this, this is clear evidence of racism.
Yeah, which is total nonsense.
What is it evidence of?
It's evidence of a number of things. And, I find myself in two places on a lot of these arguments. On the one hand, somehow I'm sitting here on your podcast defending academia, when on any normal day I would be telling you academia was so incredibly broken and science has been so incredibly corrupted by its contact with the market that we have to fix these things, because that is in and of itself a threat, to the West. Here, I find myself saying, wait a second, these people are actually telling you what they think. They think science is the enemy. And instead of democratizing the tools of science and giving them to the people who need them most, they want to end science. So the problems are several. Unfortunately, they're not
basically exactly what we were just talking about before with Hamilton.
Dry inside baseball stuff.
But I think
people aren't going to educate themselves. People aren't going to, try to constructively look at certain things. They just want to say, well, this is a problem, so cancel it. We're going to cancel science now, too. I mean, I think a lot of what he was just talking about, piggybacks into what we were just talking about before, in the sense of how can we reallocate some resources and find a way to make these scenarios that are leading to not that many black scientists out in the field. I mean, how do you improve those situations at their base? Because to just say that, well, the system's the problem and it's clearly inherently racist, I mean, that's not really a fix. And to just burn it all down like he just tried to argue there, I mean, you're going to reset so many years of progress. So, I mean, the cancel culture, I mean, it's getting to a point where it's really becoming a hindrance in some areas. I mean, cancel science, cancel Hamilton. I'm all for, taking down statues that are, of Confederate generals and stuff like that. Cancel the Confederacy, sure. But cancel science? I mean, what the hell are we talking about? Cancel science. I mean, cancel science in Hamilton? Okay. Let's see where that gets us.
Play the rest of it. Play it till the middle. I just want to hear this one good part where he talks about the corruption of the university systems and how they hire immigrants.
Tremendously liberal and that
Yes, we know.
I mean that in both senses. Let's take the honorable part of it, right? Inside of a university, there is every desire to bring people who do not look like the old white guys that have done so much of the past work in science. There is a desire to broaden, so it is not true that privately scientists are harboring racist views and talking about them and then, behaving themselves when they're around people who are of a different color. It's not like that, okay? There is a desire to have those people show up and get the job because, for one thing, it takes the pressure off. To the extent that departments don't look like the demographics of the country in which these departments are housed, that raises questions. And so there's a desire to bring in anybody who makes it clear that that's not going on. However, let's say that you were black and you grew up in a neighborhood where the odds were stacked against you, and you made it. Let's say that you had people who said wise things to you, and they got you to focus on the right stuff, and you managed to dodge the stuff that captures so many, and you made it, right? Let's say you got into Harvard, you got a really good quality degree in a proper science. Well, what are you going to do with it? You're going to go into academia? That would be insane, because I don't know what the numbers are. I don't know what fraction of people who get PhDs actually get the job that they've trained for, but it's tiny.
Is it really?
I'll be like 1 in 20.
Really?
Yeah.
Because there's only so many positions, and every year you're graduating hundreds and hundreds of people with those degrees.
Well, but there's also a very good reason for this. I mean, it's a terrible reason, but there's a very easily comprehended reason. So universities are fueled in large measure by what's called overhead of the grants. So if you get $1 million grant, half or more will go to your university, right? So that's what builds the buildings and fuels the place. So the university has an incentive to get as many people file grant applications as they can, and they have an incentive to hire people whose grant applications will be large rather than small. So this, for example, is one of the reasons that science has taken up arms against theory, that is to say proper scientific theoreticians like me, and it is instead hired people.
Get me started on the topic of universities. We don't have enough time.
Experiments have big grants. And
all
big
right,
grants
you can cut it
money.
off.
But if you were a university and what you wanted,
wait, what happened?
then what you would want to do is you would want to free those people from teaching, and you would want to get people who weren't so expensive to do the work of the university. And the way you do that is you bring them on as graduate students, and you pay them an appalling wage. You claim that they are not actually workers, that they are students. And they do most of the teaching, and they do a lot of the work of the university for incredibly low amounts of money. They live under poor conditions, and increasingly they have to come from abroad, where they are in some sense getting a deal that still makes sense. But this means that we overproduce PhDs. We give people degrees instead of money to do the work of the university in order that the people who are capable of getting the grants spend almost full time doing that job. And it's a racket. So
I wasn't aware of that at all. I didn't know how it works.
Yeah, it's a racket. And the person you should talk to, the person who knows the most about this, is actually Eric, my brother. So what he unearthed was actually that there was
Trump
an explicit conspiracy to game the visa system in order to keep the system
limiting
running.
them. Now they all got to go back to
fake shortage.
Well, to say,
I mean,
he was right.
Hopefully they'll hire Americans again.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people in America would agree that if there's a foreigner that is the best educated, that fits that position.
They're taking me out of that job because that person's coming in with less money and no health benefits. That happens a lot.
In a lot of situations, yeah, but in theory, you would say to yourself that, something, the entire field being leveled. Okay. You know what? Different topic.
Next time. I actually want to harp on that topic a little more.
We have so many topics. We got to structure ourselves.
Yes.